Alright, listen up. Most men walk through life blind, believing the world rewards virtue. They tell you to be nice, to be good, and that respect will naturally follow. They lie. You felt it, haven't you? That gnawing fear of being dismissed, overlooked, or worse, outright manipulated. You see women effortlessly gravitate towards men who aren't nice, who exude a different kind of power. You feel that sting when your efforts go unappreciated, when your kindness is mistaken for weakness. The brutal truth: the world doesn't reward the good man who lacks teeth. It rewards the man who understands the brutal mechanics of the game. Tonight, we pull back the curtain on the harsh realities Machiavelli dared to speak. This isn't about being evil, it's about being effective. It's about shedding the naive notions that leave you vulnerable to manipulation and reclaiming your respect. We're talking about the mental game, the unwritten rules of engagement that define who leads and who is led. If you're tired of being a pawn, if you're ready to master the masculine strategy that builds a high-value man, then stay locked in, because what you're about to learn isn't comfortable, but it is the only way to seize emotional control and ensure you're never again seen as merely good enough to be used. The nice guy archetype is a psychological vulnerability. It's a surrender of your inherent power. When you seek approval or avoid conflict, you signal negotiable boundaries, external worth. This isn't kindness, it's a lack of self-respect. The world perceives this as weakness. This is the first rule of the mental game. Perception is reality. If perceived weak, you will be treated weak, ripe for manipulation. It's emotional chess. Most men play checkers. True players execute grandmaster strategies for dominance. Machiavelli understood this. His insights recognized the brutal, self-serving nature of humans, not villainy. He taught a leader must be both loved and feared, if forced to choose. Respect born from strength is more reliable. Love unearned is fleeting. For the high-value man, this means establishing non-negotiable boundaries, enforcing them, demonstrating benevolence as choice, not desperation. This is masculine strategy, cultivating quiet competence, a subtle threat of consequence ensuring absolute respect. Lack emotional control, and predictable reactions make you an open book easily exploited. The true master of the mental game knows composure is his most potent weapon. He responds, not reacts. He asserts, not pleads. He attracts, not chases. This inner strength separates prey from predator. It's the ultimate defense against manipulation, the engine of true power. Your unshakable resolve, unswayed by emotional ploys, is the bedrock of your dominance. It's about deploying emotions strategically, not being enslaved. This strategic deployment builds the high-value man who commands deference. This isn't just avoiding use, it's fundamentally altering your position. But how do you actually build this impenetrable fortress of self? Building this impenetrable fortress of self begins with a ruthless inventory of your own vulnerabilities. It's a psychological audit where you identify every trigger, every insecurity, every past wound that leaves you susceptible to external manipulation. This is the crucible of true emotional control. You must dissect your own emotional landscape, not to suppress feeling, but to command it. The high-value man understands that his internal state is the ultimate battleground. Losing control here means losing the entire mental game. It means offering your opponents a clear blueprint to exploit your weaknesses, turning your predictable reactions into levers they can effortlessly pull to undermine your power. Machiavelli didn't advocate for being evil, he simply articulated the cold, hard truth. The world will test you. It will poke and prod, seeking your breaking point. Your ability to maintain composure, to project an unshakable resolve in the face of provocation, is your most potent defense. This isn't about being a robot. It's about mastering the art of calculated detachment. It's about recognizing emotional ploys for what they are, attempts at manipulation designed to disarm you, to strip you of your power. When you possess unassailable emotional control, you become a master of the mental game, able to observe the chessboard from above, anticipating moves, rather than reacting blindly to every pawn push. This disciplined approach commands genuine respect because it demonstrates an inherent strength that cannot be bought or faked. It's the hallmark of a dominant masculine strategy to move with intention, unburdened by reactive impulse. The level of self-mastery doesn't just prevent you from being used, it redefines your entire presence. It signals to others that you are not a target, but a force. But how do you calibrate this internal compass for absolute accuracy, ensuring every decision reinforces your strategic position? The calibration of this internal compass begins with an unsparing assessment of your own vulnerabilities, particularly the pervasive belief that being good inherently protects you. This is the oldest trap in the mental game, a fallacy dissected centuries ago. He knew that the world, in its brutal efficiency, often preys on the unsuspecting, turning their inherent virtues, their kindness, their empathy, their willingness to trust into the very mechanisms of their downfall. Unregulated goodness, detached from sharp discernment, becomes a gaping wound through which your power bleeds. It renders you profoundly susceptible to manipulation, because your predictable impulse is to offer help, to forgive, to believe the best, even when the evidence screams otherwise. To achieve this absolute accuracy, you must cultivate an unwavering degree of emotional control. This isn't about suppressing feelings, but about refusing to let them dictate your strategic responses. When someone attempts to manipulate you, they are fundamentally trying to hijack your emotional state to provoke a reaction that serves their agenda. If you remain unperturbed, if your emotional landscape is a fortress, their attempts fall flat, leaving them exposed and impotent. This level of self-mastery elevates you to the status of a true high-value man, someone who cannot be easily swayed, bought, or exploited. Your decision-making becomes unimpeachable, rooted in clarity rather than impulse or sentimentality. This discernment is the cornerstone of a potent masculine strategy: to see the unseen, to hear the unsaid, and to act only when your actions serve your highest strategic objectives. Rather than reacting to emotional bait, you must develop an almost predatory instinct for detecting ulterior motives, for understanding the hidden calculus behind people's actions. It's about recognizing that not everyone operates with the same benevolent intent, and that your kindness, if left unchecked, can be weaponized against you. It's the difference between being a pawn and a player in the grand mental game of life. This strategic vigilance doesn't diminish your capacity for genuine compassion. Instead, it allows you to direct your power and generosity with surgical precision, ensuring they are invested where they will yield true respect, rather than being squandered on those who would only drain you. This brings us to a critical distinction. How do you discern genuine need from opportunistic intent, especially when the emotional pressure is immense and immediate? The answer lies in mastering your emotional control, not in abandoning empathy, but in deploying it with strategic precision. Naive compassion is a vulnerability, a chink in your armor that opportunists will exploit. They operate on the assumption that your desire to be seen as good or generous outweighs your capacity for critical assessment. This is where the wisdom of figures like Machiavelli becomes not just theoretical but viscerally practical. He understood the raw mechanics of human nature. People will often appear to be what they are not, especially when there's something to gain. Their tears, their pleas, their manufactured crises, these are often tactics in a sophisticated mental game designed to siphon off your resources, your energy, and ultimately, your power. A man who takes power doesn't wait for permission to be discerning. He asserts his right to evaluate every situation without the distortion of emotional blackmail. He knows that true respect is earned not by endless giving, but by the judicious application of strength and resources. This isn't about becoming heartless, it's about becoming formidable. It's about understanding that every interaction is a subtle negotiation, and if you approach it without a clear masculine strategy, you're already playing from a position of weakness. The high-value man distinguishes himself by his capacity to remain unswayed by the theatrics, to see through the veil of distress to the underlying motive. He asks, what is the true cost? Is this fostering self-reliance or extending their problem onto my shoulders? This discernment is an active, demanding process, requiring you to detach from the immediate emotional current and engage your higher faculties to analyze long-term implications. It means recognizing that the most potent form of manipulation often disguises itself as an urgent plea for help, and if you succumb, you're not gaining power, you're relinquishing it. Your objective is to maintain the sovereignty of your own domain, resisting societal pressure to always be nice. The genuine high-value man understands his resources, time, energy, capital, are finite and represent his accumulated power. They are not to be squandered on those who see him merely as a means to an end. It's about protecting your energetic boundaries with the same vigilance you'd protect your territory. When someone presents a situation designed to elicit a quick emotional response, your first move must be internal, to regain complete emotional control. This pause, this deliberate deceleration, allows you to shift from a reactive state to a strategic one. It's a fundamental move in the mental game, allowing you to assess the hidden angles, the unstated expectations, the potential for future exploitation. It's about reading the psychological terrain before committing your forces. How then do you cultivate this level of unflappable clarity, even when the world demands an immediate verdict? The cultivation of unflappable clarity begins with deliberate silence, not merely the absence of sound, but the profound mastery of internal stillness. This is where your true observational powers are honed, allowing you to perceive the currents beneath the surface of any interaction. You learn to listen, not just to words, but to the nuances of tone, the shifts in body language, the unspoken motivations. This quiet vigilance allows you to gather intelligence without revealing your own hand, a fundamental principle of any effective masculine strategy. Consider the wisdom of Machiavelli. A leader must often conceal his true intentions and capabilities. This isn't deceit for its own sake, but a strategic necessity to maintain power and prevent adversaries from exploiting your vulnerabilities. Your silence becomes your armor, making you an unreadable opponent in the complex emotional chess games of life. When you speak less, your words carry more inherent weight, and your actions gain more impactful significance. This intentional restraint is a direct expression of superior emotional control. You are actively choosing not to be drawn into the fray, not to react to every provocation, not to give away your internal state or your strategic reserves. This discipline is critical for the high-value man. It's a proactive defense against manipulation when others attempt to bait you, to provoke an impulsive reaction. Your silence is a deflector shield. It forces them to reveal more of their own agenda, their own desperation, while you remain an enigma, observing their every move in this intricate mental game. This strategy of withholding information, of cultivating an aura of quiet strength, is how you build respect. People intrinsically respect what they cannot fully categorize or predict, what appears deep and self-contained. Your power isn't in your volume, but in your perceived depth and self-possession. It's in the unspoken knowledge that you hold your cards close, that your decisions are meticulously calculated, not impulsively reactive. This strategy of strategic silence and keen observation elevates you from being a mere pawn in others' narratives to being the undeniable master of your own domain. It's about conserving your energetic capital, not expending it unnecessarily on trivialities or draining emotional dramas. This is how you fortify your inner citadel, building an impenetrable defense for your emotional and psychological well-being. The silence allows for deeper processing, for moving beyond the surface-level interaction to grasp the true underlying dynamics. This profound observation unveils hidden agendas and unspoken desires, giving you an unparalleled advantage in any scenario. It is the quiet confidence that signals you are not easily swayed, not easily read, not easily controlled. It is a cornerstone of true masculine power. But what happens when the situation escalates and the pressure to engage, to speak, to react becomes immense? The untrained man crumbles, revealing his hand, his fears, his insecurities. He becomes a transparent book, easily read, easily manipulated. But the high-value man, the true player, understands that this pressure is merely another move in the emotional chess game, another tactic in psychological warfare designed to break his composure. This is precisely where your mastery of emotional control becomes your most potent weapon. It's not about suppressing emotions, but about acknowledging them and refusing to let them dictate your actions. Think of it as a form of mental judo. Instead of resisting the force, you use it to your advantage. The more they push, the more you stand firm, your silence becoming an even more deafening declaration of your unshakable power. This is where you separate yourself from the herd. Most men, when faced with an aggressive challenge or emotional outburst, will either retreat or retaliate impulsively. Both responses concede control. The true masculine strategy, informed by the wisdom of Machiavelli, is to remain stoic, observing the machinations behind the outburst. Is it a test, an attempt at manipulation, a desperate bid for attention? Your response, when it comes, must be surgical, precise, and devoid of emotional charge. It's not about proving yourself, but about reasserting your position as the architect of the conversation, not its victim. You are not obligated to explain, justify, or even acknowledge every emotional volley. In fact, often the most powerful response is no response at all, allowing their own misguided efforts to expose their weakness. This cultivates profound respect. They see a man who cannot be provoked, a mind that cannot be rattled. This is not passive aggression. It is active dominance through superior psychological discipline. The mental game is won not by who shouts loudest, but by who thinks deepest. When you refuse to be drawn into their chaotic energy, you force them to operate on your terms. You become the immovable object, and their frantic attempts to move you only exhaust them. This demonstrates a level of inner fortitude that few possess. It signals to others that you are not merely reacting to the world, but deliberately shaping it through your calm, calculated decisions. This is the hallmark of a high-value man. It reinforces your power, not as an external display, but as an internal reality. The key to this advanced masculine strategy lies in understanding that every interaction is a potential chess move. You are always playing to win, not just survive. And winning means maintaining your emotional control, your strategic advantage, and your unshakable position as the player, never the pawn. This level of self-mastery is what truly commands respect, forcing even your adversaries to acknowledge your superior game. It makes you unreadable, unpredictable, and ultimately unconquerable. But how do you cultivate this impenetrable inner fortress, this unshakable core, when the world constantly attempts to breach your defenses? Cultivating that impenetrable inner fortress isn't about erecting walls. It's about dismantling the need for them by mastering your internal landscape. It begins with radical self-awareness, a brutal honesty about your own triggers, fears, and vulnerabilities. This deep dive into your own psychology is where true emotional control is forged. You cannot control what you refuse to acknowledge within yourself. Think of it as your own personal mental game, a continuous process of calibration and refinement. The silent wolf understands this fundamental truth. He doesn't waste energy on external displays or reactive emotional outbursts. Instead, he channels that energy inward, honing his observational skills, his strategic foresight. This is where a clear understanding of human nature, a kind of modern-day Machiavelli perspective, becomes invaluable, not for petty manipulation but for anticipating actions, discerning motives, and understanding the levers of power in any given dynamic. The goal is not to deceive, but to be so profoundly unreadable and self-possessed that others assume your strength and intention, even when you say nothing at all. This masculine strategy operates on a different plane. It's less about overt confrontation and more about psychological positioning. You become a gravitational force, drawing situations and people to you on your terms, rather than being pulled into their orbit. This level of self-mastery elevates your power. It's a quiet strength that commands genuine respect, because it's perceived as earned, not demanded. A high-value man doesn't need to posture. His presence, his calm demeanor, and his unshakable emotional control speak volumes. The silent wolf practices detachment, not apathy. He observes the chaos around him, processes it, and then acts, or refrains from acting, with surgical precision. Every interaction is data, every challenge an opportunity to refine his internal calibrations. This continuous process of self-refinement is the essence of building that unshakable core. It makes you formidable because you are no longer easily swayed by external forces. Your decisions are not driven by fleeting emotions but by strategic intent, carefully considered and executed. This isn't manipulation in the cheap sense. It's the intelligent application of influence through superior self-governance. It reinforces the idea that your very composure is a weapon, your stillness a form of aggression against anyone attempting to destabilize you. It's an advanced form of psychological warfare where your inner peace is your impenetrable shield, and your calculated patience, your most lethal sword. But how does this internalized power translate into tangible results in the external world? Now, ask yourself, have you ever felt caught in someone else's mental game, or perhaps been subtly manipulated without realizing the true power at play? Tell me below. To truly master this level of emotional control and unlock the next tier of masculine strategy, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. This is the only way you'll continue to gain access to the Machiavellian insights most men never discover, allowing you to consistently command respect and embody the high-value man, free from unwanted manipulation. Next, watch this video to uncover how your very posture itself can be a tool of influence. Stay sharp until next time.